In this video, I'm going to go over some deck ideas. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 deck ideas. Some that are new, some that are based on other decks that we've already had, but like trying to see where we can fit some of the new cards into them. And also, I just want to let you know, if you didn't see, I have another video where I went over the synergistic cards that I've seen in this set, and I talk about them. And if you want to see some interesting combos and just some cards that work with some of the cards that we already have, just to get your brain going, seeing if it'll help you brew some of your own decks, make sure you go check out that video. I'll have a link to it at the end of this video as well as in the description. But for now, let's go to the new decks that I've got for you today. All right, this first one is what I am calling Voidlord Reanimate. I cannot stress enough how unrefined these decks are. The ratios, don't take them too seriously. I've just done what I could, and I'm gonna let you do the rest. All right. So this one is probably the most refined of the ones that I've checked out. But the new cards that I've gotten here is we've obviously got the Void Ogre Emperor in here. We've got Assassinate in here, which I still not sure about. We've got Reanimate in here, which I think is going to be insane. We've got Dark Knight Lamorak, and we've got Crystal Crack. And the last couple we've got one Cyclo Winder, and we've got 2 Corpse Giant Gigashas. So my main purpose in this deck is, reanimating. Basically summoning Beldegors, summoning Gigashas, and summoning Cyclo Winders from the grave. And some of the things that we're using to do this is we've got Reanimate to be able to get some cards back, and we've got the Void Ogre, which when summoned, you get a Voidlord or an Undead Spirit from your trash, and you get to summon it. And we've got some other interesting card choices in here. So some things that I want to mention. Cyclo Winder. It's immortal for 1 costs and 4 costs. So we've got Camelot Knights in here. I've just got 3 in here, but you could put more. And then we've got the Dark Lancer, pretty staple. And then we've got Lamorak, a 4 cost as well. So those are some ways to trigger him. We've only putting one of him in here because we don't really need him that much. But he's kind of interesting because even just at 1, he's a 6 cost, so that when he dies, you'll also be able to summon Corpse Giant off of it. So there's a lot of different looping that you can do in here. And also, we're using 2 Core Theft in here. And honestly, I might even just drop the Assassinates and just put Core Theft at 3, at 4 maybe. Just because there's going to be some times where you're going to be having Corpse Giant in your hand or Cyclo Winder in your hand, and you don't want them in your hand. You're really not ever going to want to summon them from your hand for the most part, and being able to discard them off Core Theft is almost like not even minusing, so pretty neat. Crystal Crack also is a main phase draw effect that says you discard the top 2 cards of your deck and you draw a card, so you could mill some of your immortals. We put 4 Beldegors in here because honestly Beldegor is the best. A strong when summon effect and super cheap to play. We love him, okay? Ratios could change as well. Obviously, like I said, I kind of just put 4 Aglavel in here because just to have more going first plays so that you're not too clogged up. Another interesting card in here you might have noticed is we've got Ancient Amethyst Palace. This card is mostly in here just to serve as a reduction because your opponent's probably never going to destroy it. And you can often play it for 1 core. Just play 1 core and you've got a ramp for the rest of the game. And also, it's when you place it, you discard the top card of your deck, which we kind of want to do. But in its effect, it doesn't exactly synergize because it says if whatever you mill off the top of your deck is not a spirit, then you can remove a core from one of your opponent's spirits. So sometimes, if you mill a spell, you might be able to kill one of your opponent's spirits that only has 1 core on it. But otherwise, if you mill a spirit and it's Gigasha or Cyclo Winder or Beldegor, you're going to be pretty stoked about that. You wouldn't even mind if it mills a Maduke or a Void Ogre, and I'll go into that in a second as well. And its second effect also says during your turn, when one of your purple spirits is destroyed, you can select one of your opponent's spirits and remove a core from it as well. So, potentially that's going to happen, especially with Gigasha and Cyclo Winder that have low BP. you could go into swing and attack. If they end up blocking it and you have some cores on Amethyst Palace, you're going to be able to remove a core off of one of their spirits. Also, you could potentially trigger a Beldegor. And so, kind of neat. And then also just have a 1 of Abandoned Guillotine in here, kind of because like so many of these are shadows. Lamorak's a shadow, Camelot Knight, Beldegor, Aglavel, Dark Lancer, Mordred, all of them are shadows, which is just the passive effect of Abandoned Guillotine to boost them by 2,000 during your attack step. But for just 1 core, you kind of force your opponent to attack with something so that they get exhausted. And that helps with Beldegor being able to kill stuff. It also puts them at 1 core on some stuff, so it makes it so you can attack in with a Beldegor to remove the last core. Or you can just use a core theft to discard, 1 card, remove 1 core. Not too bad. It puts them exhausted as well, too, so even when you summon Mordred, you're going to be able to kill something. Also, just another reduction that hopefully gets to stick on the board, because we all know when your opponent sees Netherworld Depths, they're going to be killing that as fast as possible. We've got 3 Deadly Balance in here, just to kind of combo off of, your in your attack step, if that happens with Amethyst Palace, you destroying one of your things, you're going to be able to remove a core off of another one of theirs. Also, just to potentially loop some of these immortal effects. Obviously, just 4 Ice Shield. And then 2 more things to talk about. We've got Reanimate. Reanimate is kind of like extra Beldegors, because you summon any 5 cost or fewer, and you don't pay its cost, but this card has 3 reduction, whereas Mordred only has 2. And so you're going to be able to just summon Mordred from your grave, and you're going to still get the Wind Summon effect, which is really strong. And then the last thing we've got Void Ogre Emperor. That has a Wind Summon effect. Select a Voidlord or an Undead Spirit in your trash, summon them without paying the cost. The Wind Summon effects don't activate. So, even if you end up milling some of your Void Ogres, when you summon a Void Ogre, you can summon another Void Ogre off of it if you want. But also, you could just summon a Maduke off of it, because Maduke is undead as well. So, it's really strong. I think that this deck would probably prove to be pretty good. I'm sure that ultimately, you might end up not even having Cycle Winder in there, but we got to test it out. And so that's what we've got. The next deck is what I just have called Set 2 Beldegor. I'm using a lot of white cards and a lot of green cards, and then I'm literally just splashing a single Rotting Swamp. And, we might play more Netherworlds, but like I said, none of these card counts are real, okay? Don't take this and copy this 1-to-1 and think it's going to be good, okay? I started just adding some copies, and then eventually I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to put these ratios at right now. I'm just going to put what cards I want to look at and think about when making this deck, okay? So we've got Beldegor, obviously. Super strong. If we're able to play a purple Nexus, then we'll get that 1 reduction. But what's really cool is there's so many good green and white cards that are 5 cost. We've got Viridian Dragon Rider, where when it dies, you ramp 2 cores. Its attack effect is not bad either. Donar is going to be able to draw you cards by sacrificing your tokens. It's a 5 cost as well. Shrike is or potentially Shriek is a swift unit, so you can summon it during your opponent's turn and, potentially block something. It dies, summon a Beldegor. Ice Blader is insane at stopping your opponent from attacking you, because when it's destroyed, you bounce one of their spirits. When it blocks, you force one of their spirits to not refresh next turn. It's also a 5 cost. And we've got Emerald Greatbird, that has when summoned, you get to exhaust one of your opponent's spirits, and when it attacks, it ramps. It's all very good cards, in my opinion. And, we've got the Gunsmith Mime that is going to do 2 things for us. It's a 4 cost, so when it dies, Beldegor is going to come out. But it's also summoning a token that's 3,000 BP, which is not bad. But you can also eventually sacrifice that token to draw more cards with Thunder God Donar. In the earlier areas, we've got Ant-Man General to also summon more tokens for Donar to eat and draw cards off of. And then we've just got low cost guys, the Fire Ant, just to be some reductions, but also it's a 2-core 4K. And we've got the Emerant Man that's going to be able to ramp us when it chump blocks. The other interesting thing that I've gotten here is the Heaven Piercing Castle, as well as Head Snow Librarian. This card, as well as Donar, have when the spirit blocks effects. Even though it says when the spirit attacks or blocks, it works with Heaven Piercing Castle. This is during your attack step when you attack with the spirit. This is when the spirit blocks. You get 2 cores from your trash and you put them onto that spirit. So you could, it's a form of ramping, or not necessarily ramping, it's a form of getting more resources to be able to summon more Beldegors. So you're going to be able to attack with your Snow Librarian. You're going to pull a core just from its own effect, but also because it's a spirit with this effect, Heaven Piercing Castle is going to be able to get more cores and put it onto it. So it's going to have even more BP, potentially up to 6,000 on attack, which is very strong. And, you know, you can do the same thing with Donar. Donar attacks and you can get more cores from there, as well as even Ice Blader. It has a when the spirit blocks effect. So you can go aggro, you can go defensive. It seems pretty neat to me. Next, you might notice that there is no Burning Force in here, and that's kind of because we're looking at Forest of Still Leaves, where one of your spirits is destroyed by your opponent. You can select one of their nexuses and return them to their hand. So it's kind of like a continuous tempo game. We swing in with guys. They need to block him sometimes, and when they block him, we bounce their nexus. It's not bad. And I've been even potentially toying with the idea of literally just playing one of a bunch of these nexuses, because a bunch of them, you don't really ever want 2 of them, but like getting the one is nice. And it's not like the nexus is absolutely crucial to, like, it's not like a nexus that it's like I have to get this specific nexus to win the game or to do my game plan. They're all just like good nexuses that will do something, but that you don't really ever want to see 2 of. And so maybe we play literally 6 nexuses, 1 copy of each. Okay, the next one we've got is this green nexus, Great Tree Gate. During your attack step at 0 cores, it says when one of your spirits destroys an opponent's spirit via comparing BP, place a core from the void onto this nexus. So it's just ramp, just more ramp. And if you needed to, and you had more cores on it during your opponent's attack step, you can destroy the nexus to exhaust one of your opponent's spirits. I don't imagine that actually ever coming up, but you know, you never, sometimes, you know, your opponent has one more attack and you don't have Ice Shield and you're going to die, and you'd be able to stop them. So kind of neat. Nothing else I really need to explain here, just other good cards that could go along with this. Dream Bomb is always insane. Ice Shield, obviously. Deadly Balance to be able to destroy some of your 5 costs to destroy some of your opponents. And, you know, that could work with your Ice Blader. Maybe your Ice Blader already attacked, but they didn't want to do anything about it, so then you can destroy it. Keep in mind, you would not want to destroy your own Viridian Dragon Rider, because this, when destroyed effect, requires your opponent to destroy Dragon Rider and not you. So be careful there. You could also potentially destroy your own God Mech Donar after you've already attacked with it to draw 2 cards and done damage. Summon a Beldegor, you know? So this is kind of what I got. I think it looks pretty cute. You let me know what you think. Next, we've got yet another deck that has Beldegor in it. I can't help it. This is like a green aggro Beldegor, okay? We've got, once again, some of the lower costs, the ramp, the high BP, the token summoner. We've got Worker Ant-Man that at 2 cores, if this has the soul core, you ramp when it attacks. Then we've got we've got a 4-cost Emerald Pincer. When summoned, exhaust one of your opponent's spirits. So you're going to be able to summon it, exhaust something, and attack. If they block it, it's a 4-cost. If it dies, you know, you summon Beldegor. Pretty neat. We've got 4 Hunger Trees. This card is just really good, in my opinion. At 1 core, it's 4,000. It's a 4-cost 2 reduction. Not too bad. And when it's destroyed by your opponent has to discard a card. So you're like, this card is always going to get you even at the minimum. And so I just think it's really strong. We've got Loyal Retainer Ezzo Wolf. another 4 cost. So, you know, Beldegor loves it. And it has Gale that says when the spirit attacks, if it is blocked, then your opponent selects the number, whatever this number is, which is 1, and of their refreshed spirits, and they exhaust them. So basically, you can summon as a wolf, declare an attack, even just keep it at 1 core, you don't care. You declare an attack, and if they block it, then you're going to be able to exhaust one of their other spirits, and if the block kills as a wolf, it's 4 costs, so you're going to summon a Beldegor off of it. And you exhausted the other spirit, so then Beldegor is going to come out, just kill the other spirit for free, and you're going to be able to attack with Beldegor if you want. I think it's pretty crazy. You've already seen this earlier. Emerald Greatbird, when summoned, exhaust a spirit, and when it attacks at level 2, you also get a core from the void into your reserve, and it's a 5 cost, so Beldegor. S3 reduction, not bad. Really solid, actually. Once again, Thunder God Donar. I am very excited about this card. I don't know why. I just am excited about it. He also is very cool looking. But we've got the tokens from Ant-Man General. Also, you don't see it here, but we've got it. Where is it? The Ant Strike Back. You'd probably put this in your deck as well. You'd set it in your burst, and even on your own attack step, if your opponent destroys one of your spirits, you don't have to pay any cost. You just get to summon 2 Ant-Man tokens. And if you do that, then your Godmech Donar is going to be able to put the cores from one of those tokens onto Godmech, and you're going to draw 2 cards and just keep yourself fueled up, being able to keep the aggro going. Viridian Dragon Rider. Not only is this card just so cool because it's like a mini Namengard elephant, you get to place 2 cores from the void into your reserve when this dies from your opponent, but also you attack with this at level 2. After the battle ends, you can put 2 cores from him into your reserve and then target one of your other spirits, and it gets plus 3,000 that turn. So just more attacking. It's pretty sick. Now, like I said, we don't know anything about what ratios we're putting in here. I put a Starblast Draw, a Deadly Balance. We put Burning Force in here. I'll show you really quickly. We've also got Needle Shot, which is from the starter deck, where you get to exhaust one of your opponent's spirits. You know, just it's basically like a Dream Bomb in a sense. You know, it's a different version of Dream Bomb, and you know, just to keep the aggro going. But you know, we've got Fanglord Tree in here. This is a spirit. It's going to cost a bit. It's more on the top end, obviously, but it has Gale 2. So when this spirit attacks, if your opponent blocks Fanglord Tree's attack, they're going to have to exhaust 2 of their other spirits that are refreshed. So this card basically stops 3 of your opponent's blockers. You just attack with this once, boom, 3 of them are exhausted because one of them's blocking this and then the other 2 from the Gale effect, which is really crazy. And I mean, if you ever happen to have it at level 3, when it reduces your opponent's life, they have to exhaust another one of their spirits. So it's aggro. It's aggro for sure. I think it's pretty neat. Next, we've got Queen Antrain. I don't know if this card would actually go in this deck. It depends on if it's really going full aggro, if it's reaching into the mid-range slightly. But, you know, depending on how many cores we're going to be able to ramp. 9 cost 5 reduction. When summoned, you get 2 more ants. And also during your attack step at level 2, when one of your spirits is destroyed, you can select one of your opponent's spirits and exhaust it. That will also combo with Donar yet again. If you have Queen Antrain and Donar on the board, you can attack with Donar. Its effect will remove the tokens off of one of your token spirits and put them onto him. Since one of them will get destroyed, Queen Antrain's second effect is going to exhaust one of your opponent's spirits. So lots of combo potential there as well. And, you know, I just put Deadly Balance in here just because, you know, when you got Beldegor, you can use Deadly Balance to keep going aggro if one of your 4 cost or 5 costs attack and your opponent doesn't kill them, and then you can, you know, combo off with that. Next, this is called Set 2 Terrasaur. It looks basically the same, okay? This is almost identical to Ryan Valentino's deck that he played just a weekend or two ago in the Ohio Grand Open. But I just, like I said, ratios, don't look at the ratios exactly, right? Because you can do whatever you want. The only cards I'm trying to show you in here is the King Vulture. Just reminding people Sortosaurus exists, just in case they want to care about it, because of the Nexus Hazard spell. 8 cost, 6 reduction, but each of your Terrasaur spirits count as 2 symbols when calculating reduction. And since Sortosaurus is a Terrasaur, it's potentially another Terrasaur to consider. I think that it's likely that Terrasaur decks are going to maybe use 3 Burning Force and then 2 Nexus Hazard instead. Or, I don't know if the ratio will flip even more, maybe even more Nexus Hazard. But Nexus Hazard, if you don't know, you get to destroy one of your opponent's spirits with 3,000 or fewer BP. You also get to destroy one of their Nexuses. And if you use it during your main step, you also get to draw a card. So you literally just go +2. You play Nexus Hazard in your main step, and you just go +2. It's pretty crazy. And the fact that it's only for Terrasaurs. So thankfully, it's not so insane that it says on each of your Emperor Beast or Terrasaurs. So it forces them to be Terrasaurs. So you're only going to get those bonuses off of Oviraptidon, Jurassic King, and Dino Man from the standard lists. But if you end up throwing Sortosaurus in there, maybe you'll be able to get some more reductions as well. So there we go. This is what we got. And I don't think you're putting, just to make sure that you guys know, I'm not saying you put King Vulture in the main. It's just probably something you put in your side deck for playing against purple, since its Wind Summon effect can destroy Netherworld Depths. And it's a bit cheaper than using Nebula Dragon Andromeda. Not as flexible, because that one can destroy any Nexus. But, when you're playing against purple, you know which one you care about destroying, and that's Netherworld Depths. Next, we've got Zach and Ryan's purple decks that they played to top 8 in the Ohio Grand Open. Now, like I said, the ratios are not exactly perfect. I kind of just took their ratios, slightly adjusted some things. I put like -1 Deadly Balance, +1 Reanimate, and +2 Lamorax. I don't know exactly what they would do, or what I would do, honestly. But this is mostly their deck, but just some things that I think might be curious options for it. I think that Reanimate is really awesome. You just get whatever spirit you care about more from your trash and summon it. You can summon Mordreds and, Beldegor, whatever you need. And Lamorak, being able to loop some stuff, it's a Beldegor target, and it's going to be able to remove cores from your opponent's stuff. During your turn when things die, you're going to be able to put spirits back into your hand instead. I think it's a solid place to start. Next, we've got white-green control. Once again, I gotta mention the ratios don't mean anything. You gotta make your own decisions, okay? You'll also notice, once again, we don't have any burning forces in here. I don't know. You probably put some burning forces in here. Maybe you end up putting the Forest of Still Leaves in here. But I just wanted to show you some cards to think about as you're making the new white-green control deck. The main things to know is we've got the Emerant Man, the chump blocker that'll ramp you a core, and then we've also got Viridian Dragon Rider, who's not so much of a chump blocker, but a solid chump. I mean, just a solid blocker. Yeah, when destroyed by your opponent, put 2 cores from the void into your reserve. So pretty strong. There's also the Ice Elemental Snowbit that came out recently that you're going to be able to use as just a card that you, in a sense, discard because you're just playing it as a reduction to be able to put out one of your bigger guys first. Obviously, such as Enterprise. And, the other big cards. And then we've got Mammoth Aegis in here to be able to, when summoned, draw a card and heal. Very strong effect. Also, its second effect, very solid as well. It's also a machine beast, so it works with Namengard City. So you could seriously use Namengard, use Elk, use Aegis, and the Namengard City. That's going to be very solid. Obviously, we also know Axe Spider exists. Very strong there as well. You could even, use Mothership Be able to use some draw power with Star Blessed Draw if you want, in combination with Namengard's second effect, giving you a refresh step at the end of your turn, or with just getting your cores back during your opponent's attack step with Infinity Mothership. And we've got the Giant Wood Castle Keep here because its first effect here says that when one of your spirits with the soul core on it destroys one of your opponent's spirits via comparing BP, select one of your spirits and refresh it. So it's a permanent suppression basically during your opponent's attack step. So you've got the soul core on your Elk, you got the soul core on your Namengard or whatever it is, your big guys. After they block and kill something, they're going to be able to be refreshed and do it again. Just keep doing it, because this isn't the once per attack step thing. If it has the soul core on it and it kills something via comparing BP, it refreshes again. So it's going to be, I think this card is going to be pretty crazy. And then next we've just got some other things that just help with the blocking and the attacking. Holy Elixir to refresh your guys. Inescapable Avalanche, which is a Dream Bomb, another Dream Bomb that only works on your opponent's attacking spirits. You can't use it offensively, but it's very good. We've also got Infinity Shield here. That's going to be able to make one of your Machine Beasts or your Mecha Spirits be able to block while exhausted during this turn, which means your Axe Biter, your Elk, be the best targets for that. And then we've also got Reboot Code just mentioned in here so that you can use this to refresh your spirits. Also use it as a form of a bonus Ice Shield or a multiple regain effect. So yeah, there we go. And we've also put the Hollow Beast Glass Bear. I think this card is a little bit underrated. I also, could just be, I don't know, maybe I'm an idiot, but I just think this card is pretty solid. You get a ramp every time it blocks, which oftentimes is going to be one time, but even if your opponent spends a card to kill this card, I think it still did its job, right? Whew. The final one we've got for you today is just what I'm calling the Heaven Castle deck. It's based on the Heaven Piercing Castle Nexus. So it's like a tempo deck, in my opinion. You could run Forest of Still Leaves if you want to be able to bounce your opponent's nexuses whenever one of your spirits dies. You can use the Namengard City to be able to get reductions on your Mammoth Aegis, your Elk, your Namengard, and then the rest of these are just cards to mention. I don't know if for sure Buffalong Bill would make it in here, but we've got Mecha Wing Duck to be able to use our Dream Bombs or our Inescapable Avalanches on during our opponent's attack step to bounce a card, as well as potentially even just Mammoth Aegis, or even Buffalong Bill, or Odin. Any of these effects all bounce cards during your opponent's attack step, and that'll ramp you a core. And it's also just a one cost, get some lower cost cards going down, attacking your opponent potentially pretty early. Also, there's so many cards in here have When the Spirit blocks, which means that if you attack with any of them, you're going to be able to get cores from your trash and put them onto your spirits using Heaven Piercing Castle, Librarian Saga, Glass Bear, Grey Garmer, Odin, Buffalong Bill, sheesh. Elk is going to be able to do it, Enterprise is going to be able to do it. Now, Mammoth Aegis is not going to be able to do it because it's not a When the Spirit blocks effect. But you could be using Reboot Code either offensively or defensively, and I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty solid. I don't know what the ratios will end up looking like, but we've also got Valkyrie Mist in here just because I think you're going to be able to go decently fast with this deck. Yeah, just some thoughts. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I hope that this gave you some ideas, maybe some shell of some deck lists that you can use to look at those and then refine them, make them much better than I made them. And I'm excited to see what you guys make with it. Let me know if there are other cards that you've thought of that could possibly go into some of these decks too, or even just share some links to some of your decks that you've made online with some of the new cards, because I'm curious to see what you're all thinking out there. But for today, that's it. That's all I got for you. Oh, don't forget, you can check out the other video that I made where I talk about all of these cards, that are in the new set, that and some of the cards from the past set that I think are potentially going to be more relevant now. Check out that video, okay? Right here, right there. All right.